Anthony Grassi here for D3 Ticker at the 2025 NCAA Convention. Happy to sit down for another small college conversation with Stacey LaDew, the Commissioner of the Southern Athletic Association. Stacey, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to talk about some of the things at the Division III level and represent the Southern Athletic Association, so thanks.
Absolutely. So we'll start with the most visible thing for the SAA.
Yeah.
You're wearing it, the rebrand.
Yeah.
What did it mean? Why was now the right time to rebrand,
Sure.
and what is the identity that you want to convey through the rebrand?
Sure. So when I actually took this job, I looked at the old logo and said, all right, that's pretty modern. Not anything I'm going to have to worry about. But in my first 100 days, I went on my listening tour to all of our campuses, and I just kept hearing, maybe it's time for a change, maybe it's time to revamp. And so our old logo was great. It was actually developed by one of our students within our league, so it has a nice history.
For sure.
But it was developed 13 years ago, and so we really needed to just get a more modern, applicable logo that we could use in a lot of different facets. So we entered that conversation, got to work with Sky Dillon, who does a ton in the D3 space. This is my second project working with him, so I was biased that he does a phenomenal job. But what I really enjoyed was it was a holistic approach. We started with a league-wide survey, all of our constituents. Who are we? Who do we want to become? Where are we headed? And we had a committee with ADs, marketing professionals, sports information folks, student athletes, and we really worked through the process and looked at a few different avenues we could take. Did we just want to evolve and really still look like we used to, or do we want to tell our story? It's such an opportunity to tell a story of who we are, where we want to go. So the logo, I think selfishly, it's a very fun project, so I'm super happy I got to do it again. But the lines underneath are the drive, right? It's a road. It indicates the drive that we have as a conference. Unfortunately, one of the things that also connects us are the roads between us. We do a lot of driving to get to each other. So there's a couple different aspects in there that really help us to tell our story. But the drive within all of our institutions to be nationally prominent, to be kind of the pinnacle of Division III. So it was a nice chance to, refresh. We still paid homage to the old logo with some of the colors, some of the font kind of looks very familiar, but also really pushing us forward. With our schools coming in from Texas this year, we thought bigger, better. They do it in Texas. So really trying to evolve ourselves to stand strong with just our letter mark and then also have some of those other features. And then the road also has the 3 lines, which pays homage to our D3 roots. So really cool to just be able to tell that story and showcase a lot of different aspects of the SAA.
Exciting. So always hear the story behind
Yeah.
all the graphic design elements of it. You mentioned the membership moves for your conference are probably the biggest thing
Sure.
that's changed in your 2 years. What is it? How has the process been? You have 1 member leaving, 2 joining this academic year, 1 joining the following.
Yes.
How does all of that? Walk me through how all that happens.
Sure. So it's kind of interesting. Part of it was in slow motion, and part of it was very fast. So with the 2 Texas institutions, Trinity University and Southwestern University, we had a 3-year on-ramp to really kind of vamp up to them coming into our league. So they've been participating in our meetings. We've been considering their point of view for the last couple years, and now time's finally here for them to come in and play. They've been football member affiliates, but we're happy to wrap our arms around them as a full-time member this calendar year. And again, slow-mo, Birmingham Southern closing was a little bit slow motion because, like you mentioned earlier, I don't know if there was any more public, almost a drawn-out saga over the last few years of an institution closing. And while we appreciate Birmingham Southern, they were one of our founding members. They were an outstanding member, and it was heartbreaking to see them go through that roller coaster. We were able to see it coming and make some pivots once it did finally happen. We were caught off guard with Hendrix announcing their departure, but in the landscape of higher education right now, folks are having to do things to really try to stay viable. So we were very disappointed to see another founding member decide to leave, but we had some conversations ongoing with Maryville, who you mentioned, who will be an affiliate member in football and women's golf next year, but a full-time member the year after that. So we're trying to make sure that we have our head on a swivel, we're ready to pivot, because unfortunately what we see at the Division I level with the membership shuffle trickling down to us, we're not, immune from those things, but we're trying to make sure that we're prepared to act as necessary to make sure that we can best support our student athletes.
Do you think the membership for the SAA is settled for now?
I think all of our members are committed to the SAA. We really hold true to this last year. I was able to undergo a reimagining of our mission and values and our 4 pillars of the SAA. And again, we did that in a committee, membership transition committee, and we really looked at who we are and who we want to be, and I really feel confident that our members are proud of who we are. We are very strong academic institutions. We hold our academics up high. We're proud of that, and we do a lot of things to make sure that that is the pinnacle of our league. And we were meeting with our student athletes yesterday and got to talk to them about how nice it is to be able to travel and play against somebody on the other side of the net, of the court, of the field, that's going through the same stressors that you are as a student. And it's just been really rewarding. So I think our group is really committed to each other because we do feel like we have that common identity of being very strong academic institutions in the South.
I want to talk about some of the 2 departures. We'll start with Birmingham Southern. As you mentioned, it was a long saga with the state getting involved, local municipality getting involved, trying to save the college. I'm curious how you handled it from a conference office standpoint. How are you guys staying involved, staying up to date?
Sure.
Were you kind of taking some steps to be involved, trying to help? What does that look like from a conference office standpoint?
Yeah, so I kind of came in late in that process. They had already kind of survived wave 1 when I came on. And I was a believer that the state was going to come in, they were going to get it done, and we really, really appreciate those people. I always said the people that remained at Birmingham Southern that I got to work with, they might as well had BSC tattooed on their hearts. Like, that was their heart and soul, and they loved that place. So it was really, really sad to see how the political landscape unfurled, and I know President Coleman just did everything he could until he couldn't anymore, and there just wasn't any avenue left to take. So it was really heartbreaking to see those student athletes. Again, they chose Birmingham Southern. The ones that were still there, they chose Birmingham Southern because that's where they loved and wanted to be. So honestly, it was more of relationship, like putting our arms around people. We still stay in contact with some of the administration from Birmingham Southern, and thankfully most of them have landed in different places and are doing well. But really, from my perspective, it was our membership had heard what was going on at Birmingham Southern. We didn't need to bring them into meetings and continue to poke them until they were emotionally raw. So we were there to support them in any way that we could, and really just try to take care of the people. And that's honestly how I approached it, was just trying to be supportive in any way we could. And then once it did happen, how can we transition your student athlete somewhere else? How can we help your students to get somewhere else? All of our members, the presidents, all had a memorandum of understanding to help the transfer process for any student to come to our institutions. So our group was ready to help once it unfortunately happened, but trying to take care of the people.
Yeah, especially in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
I'm curious, on the other end, how do you handle the departure of an institution like Hendrix?
Sure. Like I mentioned before, we really love Hendrix. They've been a founding member, a wonderful member. In conference offices, you want to have members that see the bigger picture and can be team players, and Hendrix was the ultimate team player. But like I said, with the shifting in higher education and there just being less kids to put in beds, they had to to pivot and find something that will hopefully be successful for them, a large percentage of their students come from Texas. So that allure to be in Texas more often, I think, was the real driving factor for them, to try to get more students to come to Hendrix. We'll miss them. They're an affiliate in lacrosse, so we'll still continue to have a relationship with Hendrix, and we wish them well and hope that their future is bright and sustainable, but we'll certainly miss them. And again, the people. Love Amy Weaver, their athletic director. She's just always been supportive for me personally since I took this role, and they have so many great coaches, so we'll miss them, but we'll still see them, I'm sure, in non-conference.
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, you're in year 2. I'm curious, what experiences in your career thus far best prepared you to be a commissioner?
Ooh. That's an interesting question. I've kind of said that ever since I had my kids, I've lost my competitiveness. I was a student athlete, and certainly when I was a kid, cheated at board games to try to win. I used to be competitive. But once I got into the sports information realm and had my kids, I really just got to be Switzerland. And so that has really prepared me, I think, for this commissioner role, because I'm the ultimate Switzerland. I tell my folks all the time, your job is to advocate for your student athletes. I want you to push for whatever's best for your institution. I'm going to listen to it, but then I have to find the road that is the best and most fair for everyone. So I think that that's been a big help. Certainly wouldn't be where I am today without the help of my mentor, Jay Jones, who's at the Heartland Conference. When I left being on campus and transitioned into the conference space, I didn't know what I was doing. It's funny, on campus you think about your conference office and you're like, do they just sit around with their feet up all day? What is there to possibly do? And so I took that job like, all right, this is going to be a vacation. I quickly learned conference office life is not that whatsoever, but it allowed me to be a little bit more present on the nights and the weekends for my kids, which was really important to me. But I went into the HCAC, which is where I was a student athlete, so it really was kind of a full circle homecoming, but couldn't have asked for a better mentor. Jay Jones was in his first year and was able to hire me, and 6 months into the job, COVID hit, and you can't learn more about someone or on the job experience more than being in the trenches of COVID. And so we really came to know each other very well. Still consider him a very good friend, but he was able to show me how to do this job very well. It's his second stint as a commissioner, and he taught me all the things that he learned in his first run that he wouldn't do again. But really service-based mindset has really been helpful, because at the end of the day, the conference office, at least from my perspective, is we are here to serve our members. So if it's catching cross-country athletes as they come out of the chute at the championship and you're dodge and throw up, that's what we do. Throw on the gloves, get in there and do it. If it's climbing a fence with zip ties to put up a banner for a championship, we get our boots dirty. We get on the ground. We are there to help our members in any way, shape, or form we can. So I owe all of my, just my path to becoming a commissioner to Jay Jones as well.
I'm curious, what some of the things that you learned that you implemented early in your tenure were?
Another good question. Some of the things I learned early. I feel like I've finally been able to get my head above water.
Okay.
The first year was like, I told people I wasn't just drinking from a fire hose, I was drinking from 10 fire hoses. It just seemed like everywhere I turned there was something that needed attention, needed cleaned up. But one thing that actually an administrator at BSC shared with me that I've really kind of tried to live out is you can fake that you care, but you can't fake being there. And so something that we've tried to implement early on in the Southern Athletic Association is being at our championships, being at our events, and just showing our members that we care by being there. And again, I'm not going to go and sit up in a president's box and not be visible. I'm here. What do you need? Do you need me to take tickets? Do you need me to do crowd control? Like, I'm here. I'm not going to just sit around. let's do something. Let me get to work. Let Nate get to work. Our associate commissioner, we're very fortunate to have, and is of the same mindset of how can we serve our members? How can we lift you up? And so I think that's something that we've instilled early on that I think our members appreciate. I can't tell you how many times in my first year I heard, man, it's been a while since the conference office has been here. It's so nice to have someone from the conference here. I can't remember the last time that we did. And Nate and I often feel like we're worthless. Like we show up and they're like, well, we've got everything covered and we'll just stand here. But I mean, just being there really shows them how much that we care about them.
Further, what maybe business changes have you thought through in your first 2 years of implementing, and what has maybe the impact of those been thus far?
Sure. We tightened up our organization a little bit. The SAA had a little bit of a different structure where the coaches really drove the boat on decision making regarding their sports. Similar to being on campus, I don't know that there was a ton of conference representation in those meetings in the past. So that was one of the things early on that we implemented as well, is Nate and myself are on all of our coaches' meetings. It adds up to 90 meetings a year. Right. It's a large chunk of our time, but it's important for us to be there to make sure that processes are being followed. We use Robert's Rule of Order. This is how we move, things up the chain to the ADs, to the presidents if it requires that. So just really getting some structure and some regularity to things, I think, was really desperately needed. And we've been able to kind of clean up, and it's not as much of the Wild West. If you can imagine getting, 8 baseball coaches around a table, they come up with some fun ideas that might not always be feasible. And I shouldn't probably throw baseball under the bus. All of our sports had some, fun ideas.
I could imagine.
But having a perspective in the room from the admin, from the presidents of you guys can certainly recommend that and put it forward, but it might not have legs, just so you know. They certainly put things forward, even if I give them the warnings that it might not go very far. But at least we have processes in place. It was interesting. We had our football coaches meeting on Monday, and our football coaches said, one year we got away with giving a Lineman of the Year award. Why can't we still do that? And I said, because I came and now there's a process and you have to get awards approved. You can't just give out trophies. So I know that there's probably some frustration from the coaches groups that they don't have quite as much autonomy as they used to, but I do hear consistently from coaches that they appreciate that we're getting the rules written down in black and white. We're enforcing the rules. I had a cross-country coach at our championship who I was trying to verify who was the first year that was going to be the newcomer of the year. And one of, I think his assistant coaches said, well, we could probably just tell her. And he said, no. She tells us what the rules are, and she enforces the rules, and that's what we want. Right. And so I think it's just been nice to have some just consistency, regularity, have processes in black and white that we follow and enforce.
I got chat on this last question. I'm curious how you think about leading a conference office when you can't necessarily say, here's what I'm going to do here. I have the executive power and I'm going to do what I think.
Yeah.
How do you think through that process?
I really appreciate that I am not the ultimate decision maker. I am there to support, give information, do research, but ultimately if we're at the AD council meeting, I've got 9 ADs around the table who are placing the votes. I've got presidents around the room who are casting the votes. So I certainly can give all of the information to our membership, and that's what I've said on my listening tour day one. I'm not a dictator. I am not coming in and telling you how to do things. I'm coming in to listen, and I want to hear how you want to do things, and then we'll do it that way. It is very much a democratic process. I listen to the membership, and I am just enacting their will. Jay Jones told me when he used to work at the NCAA, and they went to a convention, and some piece of legislation didn't pass that I think the NCAA staff would have enjoyed. And he was really kind of defeated about that. And he told me, Dan Dutcher said, why are you upset? The membership told us exactly what they want. Now we get to go out and do it. And that has really resonated with me, that this is not my league. This is our student athletes, our admin, our coaches, our presidents. This is their league. And it's my job to do what they want done. And so that's been my kind of mantra all along. What I've tried to really instill in folks is, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to do what you tell me to do.
Excellent insight. Stacey, thank you so much for joining me to provide those
Yeah.
insights. Thank you.